Hey everybody, Eric here from Action Yugioh, and today I have for you guys a Sunavalon deck profile. Now a couple of weeks ago I made a video on the channel talking about how a single copy of Sunseed Genus Loci is a full lockdown combo. It's also an OTK. So I've been testing this deck ever since. I really like this deck and I finally got it to a point where I feel really comfortable with my build. So I figured I'd show you guys so that you guys can try it out yourselves. So let's start things off with the main deck. I am playing triple Sunseed Genus Loci. This is the most important card in the deck, and I'm also running triple Draconnect because Draconnect gets you Sunseed. So either of these is a really incredible normal summon. Pretty much a full lockdown combo or an OTK on its own. You really want to see one of these two cards on the start. And I'm also playing double Sunseed Twin. You don't actually want to draw this card. So much so that you play two of it just to be sure that one is in deck. You do need one of these to remain in deck in order to do your main combo. So next up we have our combo pieces, or one of combo pieces at least. We have Sunseed Shadow, Mardell, Lone Fire Blossom, Spore, and Laurel. These are the only cards that you need in terms of just extenders in order to do your combo. And I like to keep the deck as minimal as possible so we can play as many power cards as we want. So that's actually it for the main deck monsters that aren't hand traps. Pretty small package. For our hand traps, to start things off, we're playing one Sunvine Maiden and double Sunavalon. So these cards prevent targeting. Sunvine Maiden, if your opponent targets one of your plant link monsters, you special summon this card from your hand, it negates the effect, and then your opponent can't target any of your plant link monsters as long as you control this. And Sunavalon, it does the same thing, but it discards itself from hand when your opponent targets any of your monsters, and then it negates the card. So Sunavalon is a little bit better because it just, it's less restrictive. Maiden, however, is searchable in this deck. So I like the ratios of 2-1. It works out pretty well. For the rest of our hand traps, I am running 2 Ash Blossom, 1 Effect Veiler, 1 Droll Lockbird, and 1 Nibiru, because we are playing Crossout Designator. So this ratio works really well. These cards are also really strong on their own. This deck has so much room, and like you can play a lot of really good crossout targets that aren't dead. So it works out really well. For our spells, to start things off, we are playing triple Unexpected Die. I would argue that this is the best card in the deck, just because it summons Seed, and Seed is like your whole deck. So this just special summons like your main combo on its own. Like if you see this, most of the time you just win. And then we also are playing 1 Painful Decision. This is less good. It sends a seed in order to search a seed, but if you have like 2 of your seeds out of your deck, this card, it's dead. So I only play 1. But it's an additional way to get to your Genus Loci. Now for our actual Sunvine spells, I am running 2 Sunvine Sowing and 1 Sunvine Shrine. I like this ratio quite a bit because these are the only ones that you need in your deck in order to do your combo. The only ones that you have to run. That's kind of my theory with this deck, is that you want to run as few of the plant and the Sunvine cards as possible in order to ensure that you can get to your power cards. If you can get to your power cards and you can pull off your main combo, the deck's really strong. Finally, we have 1 Black Garden. Black Garden is so good in this deck. It is your combo. Like you need this in order to do your combo, but if you start with this, it's not dead either. If your opponent hits your Dryas with like a Ash Blossom or an Effect Veiler or an Infinite Impermanence, it's one of the biggest choke points of the deck. But what you can do is you can activate Black Garden, destroy your own Dryas, and then bring back your seed, and then just summon another Dryas. So if you don't actually have the ability to run Crossout Designator, I would recommend running multiple copies of Black Garden. Speaking of Crossout Designator, we are running 3 of them things. Really strong card. Really strong card in any deck where you can just have the space for it, like Attic Nister or this deck, for example. Finally, for additional targets for our crossout, we're running 1 Called by the Grave, double Forbidden Droplets, and 1 Dark Ruler No More. If you don't use your Forbidden Droplet in order to negate your opponent's hand traps, you can set it, and then when your opponent goes to break your board with one of these cards, you can just negate them. Like, it's really crazy. Like, you can't always negate Forbidden Droplet if they discard a spell, but if they don't send a spell off of it, you can negate Droplet. That's really crazy. For our last spell, we are running 1 copy of 1 for 1. Now, this is also an additional way to get to Loci, but you have to have a monster in hand. So it is dead a lot of the time, but in theory, it is a way to special summon, just like Unexpected Die. But sometimes you will actually draw brick hands where you see this, just because you don't see another monster. But in theory, it's really, really strong, so I would never cut it. Finally, for our traps, we're running double Imperm and 1 Sunvine Bloom. This is your pseudo skill drain of the deck, and this is another hand trap / crossout target. Finally, for our extra deck, we are playing triple of our Link 1. This card is insane. You need to run 3 for the combo, but it's so good you want to run 3 either way. We are also running 2 Thrasher. You need to run 2 Thrasher so that you can actually kill your opponent. This is your primary way of OTKing. Then you are running 1 Healer. You need to run 1. You're running 2 Daphne. You have to run 2 for the combo. This card is really good on its own, though, because it lets you put back your Link monsters. So if you use this card carefully, you can just out-resource your opponent. We are also playing 2 Jasmine. Once again, necessary for the combo. 2 Melios for the same reason, and 1 of our Dryaturnia, our Link 4. This card searches your pseudo skill drain on summon, so really good. It also lets you pop opponent's cards. We are also playing this card. I think it's Begalancer. I can't pronounce this card. I'd never try. So this card lets you bounce a monster your opponent controls, and then it inflicts damage to you equal to the damage or equal to the attack of that monster. This isn't technically a Sunavalon card, but it might as well be because it does actually trigger your trees. And finally, we are playing 1 Garden Rose Maiden. It's necessary for the combo, but it also searches Black Garden if you just want to get to Black Garden. For the side deck, we are playing triple Chalice. This card is really good in order to out Lance. Artifact Lance, that is. This deck does kind of lose to that card. This also is really good to just out DPE and other cards like that. For the same reason, we are running 2 Dark Ruler No More. This just outs boards. You're running a 1-card combo deck, so being able to just go ahead and negate multiple cards with 1 card is just a really smart way of playing. We are running 2 Spiritualism. For the same reason that we're running Dark Ruler No More, this doesn't out multiple cards, but it ensures that you're able to out one of your opponent's problematic cards, whether that be a continuous trap card or even Mystic Mine. This card lets you out it so you can go ahead and OTK your opponent on that turn, since all you need to OTK your opponent most of the time is just your seed. Next up, we are running 1 copy of Evenly Matched. So I side this because you can play it as a crossout target. If you can't set up your full combo, if you can't hit your opponent with Black Garden, because Black Garden is your primary way of playing around this card, having 1 in deck for you to be able to negate with Crossout Designator is it's pretty valuable. Next up, a bunch of power 1-ups. We're playing Imperial Order, Solemn Judgment, and Red Reboot. These are pretty self-explanatory. Just additional out, easy way to go ahead and play going second. Imperial Order, though, has a lot of synergy with this deck because you're able to negate your own Black Garden. So it's very easy for you to OTK if you start with this card. So much so, if you have any problems with any of the other cards in the main deck, this would be the first thing I'd put into the main deck. Finally, we're running double Nibiru and double Godarla. Just really good cards in order to out your opponent. Also, additional copies if your opponent's really trying to Nibiru you. So that was my Sunavalon deck profile. I do think this deck is a lot stronger than people give it credit for, and it's only going to get better. The Brave Token stuff does mix pretty seamlessly with this deck once we get that. You can't really use an on-normal summon effect, you know, when you're normal summoning a monster that doesn't have an effect. So yeah, I do think this deck is really strong, and I think it's only going to get better in the future.